try and go for that little ammonite here, you can see. There we go. Impression one side, the whole ammonite the other side. Here's one of the right little layered rocks that split like slate, sharp sounding. You can hear with a hammer there, sharp sounding noise. And look, as I've tapped that, you can see an impression one side and a little ammonite the other side. Let's see what's in the rest of this rock. You can see impressions on the outside of the rock. To give the game away, there might be something more inside the rock. And look how that split away from that little ammonite there, preserved in calcite. Small but beautiful. Well, that was certainly worth tapping through that layered rock, splitting it like slate with this little hammer made out of a hickory handled hammer here, and then the sort of sharp edge at this point for cleaving through the rocks, and then this here for tapping away, seeing if the rock is the right sound for starters. Scott, I'm going to dig this patch up. It's important to locate the pyrite. It's heavy. The ammonites that are preserved in pyrite are heavy too. I'm sieving for Susie and Trudy in Lawnside School today, doing some of this work on the beach to try and find these little perfect ammonites preserved in the fool's gold. So let's use some of the seawater here in this chug bucket, get sieving away and see what I can find here. You can see that's a good area of pyrite in your sieve. That shows you all the pyrite there accumulated in the sieve, and hopefully there's a little perfect ammonite in with all that pyrite. Let's have a really good rummage around. Bit of pottery off the old Victorian bottle dump there. Lots of pyrite here on this stretch. Let's have a really good scrape through. Let's get into the beach area. Let's try and get one of the little perfect ammonites here, digging into the beach area. Let's try a bit of work here, see what happens. Right, not much seawater left, but I'm going to use what I can in the chug bucket. The last of it, washing the material through. There we go. Big piece of pyrite. We know we're in the right area for pyrite. Look at that, looks like a bit of a mushroom there. Bit of large, roundish fool's gold, maybe even a gas bubble from the Jurassic period. And can you see one of the ammonites? Now I can. Now look at that. Absolutely golden on this rather dull day in June. It's been very hot and summery. It's quite warm out here. There's a bit of a heat wave going on, but look at that, perfect. Well, I think you can say that was worth waiting for. Look at that lovely golden ammonite there. Small, a tiny ammonite. It's small, perfectly formed, prehistoric pyrite ammonite from the Jurassic period. Well, it's Saturday night here, and it's a lovely low tide this evening, and you can see down there in the distance there's Lyme Regis, and not many people on the beach looking for fossils, but I found a good patch up here for the pyrite ammonites. Well, after all that play, it's washing up time down here in the rock pool. There's Golden Cap down there in the distance. You can see looming large in that murky, misty evening. Well, here is a mudslide that's come out onto the beach. You can see still quite wet considering how dry it's been. And down here you can see, just in the mudslide, protruding out one of the right rocks worth breaking open, one of the layered rocks there that I shall have a tap at. So here's the squelchy mudslide here, and it's getting eroded every day by the sea, and there's the harder sounding rock that's coming out of the mudslide here, which I'm just having a pick at. Look how squelchy is that mud flow there. Look at that when you get your hands into that mud flow, just there like a glacial flow of mud coming down onto the beach every day, even in this really dry weather. And there it's got one of the ammonite bearing rocks that it's brought down with it. You can see impressions on the outside to give the game away. There might be something on the inside, sharp sounding, and the other side here, which I shall show you, is very layered. Well, I said look for impressions on the outside to give the game away. There might be something more on the inside. Look at that impression of a Arneoceros ammonite there, and that's in a piece of rock just above this big piece of rock I'm getting out of the mudslide. You're not allowed to dig in the cliffs in situ. That's definitely not allowed, digging in the cliffs in situ. The cliffs are dangerous and liable to fall suddenly and without warning. So here's the rock that was just above the really major piece of stone that I found, and you can see the impression on the outside to give the game away. There might be something more on the inside, and look, you can see there as I swivel that stone around, you see a little ammonite preserved in the calcite there, protruding out. That should tap out nicely with the cleave end of the hammer, and there's that layered nature to the rock. It splits like slate, sharp sounding. It looks like it's been broken already, or maybe it broke on the way down the landslide onto the beach and smashed up. Sometimes the line of weakness being the fossils inside. And look at this colossal piece of stone here. Fantastic bit for me to break up, and I think with the rate of light that we're losing at the moment, I might have to do that in part 2. That's going to be amazing, that stone. So let's have a tap at this stone here. The safety glasses on. I'll use the bigger stone here as something to tap it on. I've got to get rid of all this mud off my hammer from all that digging that I was doing. And you hear the sharp natured sound to the rock as I tap through it with the cleave end of the hammer. And there's one straight away, a nice little one there, preserved in the calcite. Must have been a big one there, that's a shame. See where my thumb is there? You can see quite a large one preserved in calcite, but that's been already eroded. Tapping away through the stone, down into the stone with that cleave end of the hammer there. Well, this really is a humdinger of a stone here. Really large, you can see it, little ammonite there. Looks really nicely preserved, but on this side here, look at all this really big bump here. Stuff going on here, and the stone really rises at this point, so that's a really good sign in itself. So let's have a look at that when I get home. I'm going to take that whole stone home and go through it very carefully. This is one for preparing. Well, I'm walking back along the edge of these mudslides, and you can see just down here I found a bit of the right rock. It's a bit of a wood stone, and you can see as I turn it over, there's the wood and there's the layered natured rock. Someone split that down to a certain degree. Here's another piece of the right rock, the birch eye nodule material, and that is quite layered limestone rock that splits like slate, sharp sounding, and has a sharp ring to it. And I'll show you one of the mudslides where those nodules particularly come out along the Jurassic coast. So you can see down there in the distance that mud that's rolling over the top of that area of cliffs, and then resulting in this sort of glacial flow of mud almost, this lias mud that's coming down out to sea. And you can see the toe of the mudslide there. That's quite good for the birch eye nodules. You get some nice little small round nodules, and sometimes you can be lucky and get one of the complete Microdoroceros birch eye ammonites in those limestone nodules. And those are sort of places where the sea's washing. You can see the tides coming in. I've got to get back now to Lyme Regis with the tide running in. A belemnite fossil on the ground. There's the very dangerous church cliffs. They're liable to fall suddenly and without warning. So do not go anywhere near those cliffs. Keep away from the dangerous cliffs and head along for the mudslides that are being washed, and fossils are coming out of those mudslides that you can pick up, washed by the sea daily, and pick the low tide and come out an hour before low tide and an hour afterwards looking for the fossil finds on the beach. There's a fossil collecting code of conduct in operation along the Jurassic coast. You see people right up underneath those cliffs during the summer months. You're to stay away from the dangerous cliffs because they will fall and they are really hazardous at this time of year, and they're liable to fall suddenly and without warning, as I've said. But people standing underneath the cliffs lead kids up towards the cliffs as well, and that's irresponsible.